Bombshell Books, excerpts from Finding Freedom reveal royal rifts and how Harry and Meghan fell in love.
There's nothing negative about this. This is not a book that is about stirring the pot, in my opinion. It's really just about setting the record straight on a lot of the gossip.
And Prince William reveals the worst gift he ever gave Kate, while Queen Elizabeth learns how to use Zoom.
Can you see everybody? You should have 6 people on your screen.
Yes, well, I can see 4 anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, you don't need me. You know what I look like.
Plus, Lady Colin Campbell breaks down her book, Harry and Meghan, The Real Story.
She misunderstood her role, and I think being royal went to her head. And this was even before she got married.
We've got that plus so much more in today's Royally Us. Hello to our fellow royal lovers and welcome to Royally Us. I'm Christina and I am so excited to be joined by Kristen Meizner. She is a royal watcher and host of the podcast When Harry Met Meghan, which documented the lead up to the royal wedding. She's an author. She's like I said, a podcast host. We're so excited to have you join us, Kristen. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And it's a good show because we have a lot to break down. So much. We have to, of course, talk about the excerpts from the Finding Freedom book. We have an interview with Lady Colin Campbell, who has another book about Harry and Meghan coming out. And William just did a big interview. So like I said, there's a ton to get to. But before we do that, we want to take a look and highlight our royal viewers, our royal watchers, to see what they had to say about last week's show. So kicking us off is the Natster saying, "I'm amazed at Prince Philip and how well he looks at 99. There are some good genes there from both Grandma and Grandpa George." I mean, he looked amazing at that event, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to give credit to cocktails and love. That household's full of both of them, right?
I love that. I love that. That is so true. Gwen Erickson said that dress looked lovely and such an honor she was given by the Queen. Of course, talking about Princess Beatrice wearing the Queen's tiara and gown for her big wedding day.
Oh, she looked just stunning. And I love that the dress was designed by the same designer who did the Queen's dress when she got married too. So it wasn't just that she was wearing one of the Queen's beloved dresses, but the same designer. And I love that tradition being handed down, the sentimentality of it, as well as the ecological friendliness of it. And it's just so regal. She looked fantastic, didn't she?
It was like timeless. I loved everything about it. And then rounding it up, Margaret Sheet said, Meghan Markle wasn't planning on staying from the beginning. Of course, they are saying that she always wanted to leave California, or always wanted to leave London for California and kind of leave the royal family, which who knows, up for debate.
Well, I mean, we'll get into this in a little bit with the new book coming out. But you know, it really sounds like Harry wanted that more than Meghan did.
It did. And that kind of takes us right into our next segment. Usually we kind of kick off every week with rounding up our royal news, but I thought this week we would spill the royal tea because there's a lot to get to. Of course, there's this new book coming out on August 11th called Finding Freedom. It is written by 2 royal reporters who are pretty much on the inside with Harry and Meghan. Harry and Meghan said that they did not contribute to this book, but there are a lot of bombshell reports. So Kristen, kind of kick us off. What did we learn about Harry and Meghan just in these couple excerpts that we've seen so far? So much.
Well, I got to say, first of all, I'm really excited about this book. I think that, we hear a lot of negative gossip about Meghan and Harry. A lot of it is tinged with racism, with uglier things as well, xenophobia and so on. And so to have a book like this come out that's really just looking at them as humans, not as villains, a young couple with a baby that want to have some privacy and not be vilified constantly with everything they do. And, what I love about the excerpts that I've read from this book is that it's trying to set the record straight in lots of ways. There's nothing negative about this. This is not a book that is about stirring the pot, in my opinion. It's really just about setting the record straight on a lot of the gossip and showing the human side of Meghan and Harry and what it's been like for them. I can't imagine being them constantly attacked by the press. And it's just giving an inside look of how that can affect a person. These people are people. They're not just celebrities. They're human beings too.
Yeah, they're human beings trying to raise a new baby and trying to figure out what life suits them best. And that's okay. It doesn't always have to be by the book. So we did learn that it was kind of almost love at first sight, pretty much, that they fell in love very early on in their relationship. And they both knew right away that this was going to be it. And they were kind of in it after date number 2, I think.
Yes, and the first one to say "I love you" was Harry. We learned that also,
Mhm.
which I think is terrific. And only 3 months into the relationship, I think, is what the excerpt said. So, you know, for some people that's quick, for some it's slower. But I'm just, I just love hearing about that love story, the backstory that I think all of us just, you know, we all ate it up in as soon as we learned about it, and now we're just getting more and more details.
Yeah, definitely. And we are also getting some more details on maybe what went wrong between Harry and William. The book kind of breaks down saying, you know, William told Harry, allegedly told Harry to maybe pump the brakes on the relationship and kind of slow down a little bit.
Yeah, and not just slow it down, but with that girl,
Mhm.
not treating her as a woman or, you know, as a grown up. And supposedly, according to the book, there are also people inside Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, inside the, you know, the royal family even, who saw her as just a showgirl, who didn't take her especially seriously. And I can see, you know, how Harry would have felt very personally hurt by this because, you know, William, the palace, they're supposed to be on his side, right? And I understand William wanted to court for over a decade, his wife, but not everybody wants to spend a decade courting. For some
Right.
people, it's fine to meet somebody, fall in love, and then within 2 years get married. And Harry wasn't a naive kid doing this. He was in his 30s. You have to
Sure.
remember, he was not a child.
Yeah, he knew what he wanted and he wanted to kind of get his life going as soon as it, you know, kind of fell into his lap. And then, you know, it was interesting, you know, a lot of the, you know, royal staffers or sources told, you know, the authors that royal staffers weren't very nice to Meghan either, kind of talking a little bit about her behind her back, saying they didn't trust her, which maybe could give insight as to why, you know, some staffers were hired and fired during their time as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely, no matter what your job is, you want your staff on your side. You don't want
Yeah.
them leaking stories or trying to undermine you. And
Mhm.
I imagine that must have been quite challenging for them.
I think so too. And then we're also getting some more word about what's going on between the dynamic between Kate and Meghan. And it doesn't seem like it was this war that a lot of people thought.
Yeah, and you know, I just think we have to also keep in mind they're sisters-in-law.
Yeah.
And the idea that everybody has to immediately be best friends with their sisters-in-law, I don't think that's the case in most families.
Yeah.
It's a getting to know you period, especially when one of you is from another country and is just, you know, moving into this life, and the other has been in the family for ages and ages and ages. So I think that, you know, it's ridiculous to think that they should have been best friends from the get-go. And I also think it's equally ridiculous then to pit them against each other. I think that's a common trope in all sorts of media and in our culture. We like to pit women against each other. It's a great source of entertainment, right?
It
But
is. Yeah.
I don't think that applies to them. I think they're
Right.
just very typical sisters-in-law.
I
Like,
think so
we
too.
get along just fine, but we're not best friends. And
Exactly.
maybe things are awkward sometimes. And that's what it sounds like it is between these two.
Right. And that's what they said, you know, kind of early on in the beginning, that they would maybe sometimes pass each other and don't really know what to do because you don't really know the person. But, you know, and then there's just so many rules and regulations that you probably can't do this, you can't do that. So it's probably even harder to get to know somebody on that type of level.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't even imagine what that must be like. And, you know, all things being said, you know, we have seen them out in public together over the years. We have seen them enjoying each other's company. And so, again, it's not that they're enemies, but not best friends either, and that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, we actually got some reporting that the queen, like what the queen thinks about all this, and you know, sources told us that, you know, based on the Harry and William part of it, that she really wants them to sit down face to face and kind of hash this thing out, and really wants Harry to come back to the UK to do that, because she doesn't think that it can be done via phone or via Zoom, and you really want to see them kind of put this behind them and kind of move on.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fantastic if they could patch things up and so on. But also, you know, Harry's made it clear he wants to be seen as an adult. He, you know, according to the book, doesn't want to just be treated like a little kid all the time by his big brother. He doesn't need to be protected all the time, and
Right.
wants to be seen as an equal human being. And he also wants his privacy in his life. And I think that that's fair as well. So it'd be great if they would patch things up, but I think it would be unrealistic to patch things up in a way where it's exactly like it was before, because
Right.
they're new people now and they've had new experiences.
Definitely. And I think you made a good point before that this wasn't, that Meghan shouldn't be given all the blame of this. Like, this was two people, two adults that made this decision, and they both wanted to break away. You know, Harry never wanted to be in that public eye. He always hated the paparazzi. He always hated this. You know, maybe that's one of the reasons why he went into the military, is to kind of step away from the cameras and step away from, you know, the really public life. And now he's doing it.
Yeah, and when he was in the military and after he got out of the military, he said repeatedly in interviews that was the time he really felt most himself, being a private citizen, being with other people who didn't look at him as a prince, but just as a mate or as a coworker. And that's something he's wanted for a long time. And so I'm always astounded that the press wants to blame Meghan and say, look what she did to him, when he made that clear before Meghan was even in the picture, that that's the life that he liked best.
Right. Well, as long as they're happy, that's all that matters.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, I still can't wait to read it. Only a couple more weeks.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yes.
It's so good. Let's move on to our royal roundup, the rest of the royal news of the week, because there's actually quite a bit. And Prince William actually sat down for an interview with a podcast, and we found out a lot of things about him. We also found out that he is not a very good gift giver. And he gave Duchess Kate a gift that she may or may not have returned.
Yes, early in their courtship, he decided that it would be fantastic to get her some very expensive binoculars.
Yes.
No motivation, no link to a romantic history or a moment between them. Not because she ever said she liked bird watching, but he just thought this would be a fun present. And she opened it up and thought, why?
Like,
what is this about? Now, I would personally love to get binoculars. I like birds. I can think of moments where I would really enjoy binoculars, but I can see where she might have been surprised and astounded. This has nothing to do with us or our story or my hobbies. Why?
of all things. Hey, yes. However many years they've been together, if he did one bad gift, that's okay. We'll give him a pass. He also revealed in the interview who is in charge of the Kensington Palace Twitter. So take a look at this.
Do you control the Kensington Palace Twitter?
No.
Oh, no, you're not. I always wonder if that's you.
Deliberately keep me away from that.
Oh, I always wondered
tried a couple of times when Liverpool did that amazing semi-final. Yeah, Barcelona. I grabbed hold of the Twitter thing and I just posted it.
So clearly Prince William is not in charge, and he very rarely is able to get on that phone and tweet.
No, because who knows what he would get up to. Yes, it would all be about football, right?
It would all be about football, which he pretty much says. And that kind of keeps us moving on the football talk, because as we know, he loves football, soccer, and he is a big advocate for mental health. So we kind of put those two together. And recently he teamed up with some soccer stars, including David Beckham, to talk about mental health. So take a look.
I really hope you guys feel that the tide is turning on mental health, and we are making progress.
It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to say that. It's okay to come out and say, I need help.
So what do we know about this? What was this for? And I'm sure, this was like Prince William's dream come true.
Yes, well, this is an expansion of his mental health initiatives, which launched in 2016 with Heads Together with his brother and his wife. And, he said earlier this year that suicide is the #1 cause of death for men under 45 in the UK, and that mental health isn't always something that's talked about with British men, and that maybe football is a good inroad to those kinds of conversations. And so he's been working on expanding his conversations with the football world and trying to get people to talk more openly within the professional football sphere and those who are fans of the world of football. And I think that's fantastic. And, I think about in the US even, bros who love sports aren't really necessarily culturally encouraged to talk about their feelings. Right. And they're supposed to be tough. They're supposed to be impervious to pain and so on. And I love that William is saying, no, it doesn't matter whether you play football, if you're a man, it doesn't matter if you are supposed to keep a stiff upper lip. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to not be okay. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it's better to actually talk about when we're not okay than it is to pretend that we're not in pain, because we're all in pain sometimes. We're all uncomfortable sometimes. And so I really think this is a great initiative.
I do too. I absolutely love it. I also love that he gave a little insight into Prince George, because it seems like Prince George is a little bit of a football fan as well, or a soccer fan. And he said that maybe one day Prince George would be able to be a professional soccer player. So who knows? He's a soccer player. He was fun. insane. William also teamed up with Kate for another great cause. They announced a $2.3 million fund to support the needs of frontline workers during this coronavirus crisis. You know, they've really, I mean, we've talked about it on the show a couple times, but I feel like they've really stepped up in this time of crisis and kind of been there and been a face and kind of, you know, reached out to these frontline workers, reached out to people that are going through some tough times and really stepped up.
Yeah, I just admire that so much. I gotta say, here in the US, I wish we did as good a job as they've been doing. I feel that this is something that from the get-go, they've taken very seriously. Obviously, a member of the family, Prince Charles, was affected by COVID. He had COVID. So it's something that also personally affects them. But they also see that this takes a toll on workers in their mental health, in their physical health, and so on. And so, of course, it ties together with their Heads Together initiative and with just their overall concern for the well-being of the UK. So I just think that's great that they are putting money behind their words here too.
Totally, yeah. I think they're doing a really great job, and keep up the good work.
Yes.
Next up, I love this story. A new portrait of the Queen was revealed, and she saw it via a virtual visit. So take a look.
Well, I'm glad to have had a chance to see it. Hope I'll see it in real life one day.
I couldn't tell when I first watched this video if she loved it or not. I was waiting for the reaction. I'm like, oh my God. But the artist did such a beautiful job.
Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful portrait.
Really?
It took 7 months to make. I love the, it almost looks like she's happy in the photo. She looks regal, but she also looks happy in it. And it's great to see the Queen looking regal and happy. I love the blue frock that she's wearing. She looks terrific. And I love the reaction in that video. The Queen, she's smiling. She looks tickled. And I so enjoyed that. I love seeing, I feel that during COVID, we've seen all sorts of different sides of the Queen that we haven't seen before. And this was especially delightful to me, was to see her reaction to that portrait.
I know, I loved it so much. In a little bit, we're going to talk about what goes on behind the scenes during the Queen Elizabeth Zooms, which is a must-see moment. It's really fantastic. But before we talk about that, we have to also go back to Prince Harry, because we finally got some new dates on when the Invictus Games are going to be happening next year, because obviously they were canceled this year because of COVID.
Yes. So first of all, I really have to give it to Prince Harry, because he postponed the Invictus Games before the Olympics announced that they were postponing their games. I feel that he was incredibly responsible. He is dealing with a population of injured veterans. He knows the importance of taking people's health seriously. He was not going to fool around with this. And so I love that he postponed it. And I'm really happy that the date he announced is next year. It's not later this year. It's not, it's not sooner than it needs to be. It is next May and June. And I think that's the right thing to do.
I think so too, because who knows what next month is going to look like, you know?
Yes.
Say, it really is. It really is. And then rounding out our Harry and Meghan news, they also filed a new lawsuit to protect their 14-month-old son, Archie. You know, I mean, we talked a little bit about this before. All they want is their privacy. And especially when it comes to a baby that is so young, you know, they're saying drones are flying over their house trying to just snap some photos. And it's totally an invasion of privacy.
Yeah, and helicopters as early as 5:30 in the morning. I cannot imagine helicopters circling my house at 5:30 in the morning. They're very loud. They're really, really loud.
Baby, you're like, oh my God, they're gonna wake the baby up. Now my house is screwed up.
Yes, and in California, there is a law that people are not allowed to photograph you on your property and in your home, and to use long lens cameras or drones or helicopters is against the law there. So the fact that they're doing this isn't just something that personally affects them, it's against the law. Right. So I can see why they have to file a lawsuit here, because this is such an invasion of privacy and it's a breaking of the law.
Hopefully something happens, and hopefully they can, you know, these helicopters, these drones can kind of disappear and they can just live the life that they want to live. Leave them alone.
Yes, please, please. They give us enough public appearances. We can enjoy them during those public appearances. We don't need you to sneak into their property and take photos. We don't need you to do that.
Exactly. Let them figure out exactly how they want to do it on their own terms.
Yes.
All right, now it's time to break down the royal rules, and to help us do that is author Lady Colin Campbell. She has a brand new book Harry and Meghan, The Real Story, that is coming out. And of course, that is making headlines as well. So I recently sat down with her to talk all about it. Take a look. What made you want to write this book?
Well, I wanted to write it because I thought it was history in the making. And I understood the importance of the subject because Meghan Markle has occupied a unique position in British royal life. And I saw that she had a golden opportunity to do tremendous good for the British nation, the Commonwealth, and I understood that it was derailing quite severely. So, and that's what made me decide to write it, because I thought it's a fascinating story.
And you write in the book that Meghan started a little bit of controversy even from the beginning, even before the wedding. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Well, I was informed that Meghan was not making the adjustment that everybody hoped she would make, even before the wedding. It seems that she misunderstood her role, and I think being royal went to her head. And this was even before she got married. And she was becoming very demanding and wanted everything to change to suit her. Had she treated being royal the way she treated being an ensemble player in Suits, she'd have been an outstanding success. But she moved up in the world, and her priorities changed and her parameters changed. And she actually misunderstood that you still need to function within parameters. And it's not all about your desires and your ambitions, that even as a member of the royal family, or maybe especially as a member of the royal family, you have to function within given constraints, none of which she was prepared to function in.
I mean, what was the royals' reaction when they first got together? I mean, you know, you say Prince Philip said, you know, you step out with actresses, you don't marry actresses. And, you know,
Yes.
Prince William tried to slow down this relationship. So what was the reaction when they first got together? Did anybody think that they would actually take it to this next step, have a marriage, have a baby, and have a future together?
It very quickly became apparent to everybody close to Harry that he was completely smitten and that this was going to be a very serious relationship. It also was apparent to people that Meghan was a very strong, actually almost overpowering personality who was extremely opinionated, very doctrinaire, and Prince Charles nicknamed her Tungsten because he thought she was so tough. They liked the fact that Meghan was vivacious and that she was charming, and they loved the fact that she was a woman of color. They did not like the fact that she seemed to think that being a California babe was that being a California babe entitled her to know better than anybody how everything should be done. So from the very early days, there was a reservation that Meghan was too strong-willed, too determined to have her own way, to fit in adequately, because royals, like politicians in America, have to be flexible.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, you know, as a watcher of the royal family, as somebody that's close to the royal family, it's got to be so sad to see the breakdown of Harry and William's relationship because of Meghan, pretty much. That's what it seems like, because, you know, he wanted
it's entirely because of Meghan. It's in, you know, the breakdown of the brothers' relationship and also the relationship with Catherine. Catherine, William, and Harry were a unit. When a fourth side was going to be added to the triangle, so to speak, obviously there would have to be changes, you know, but that didn't mean that things had to break down as utterly and completely as they have broken down. But, you know, William cautioned Harry about moving so quickly, but Meghan also was pushing the agenda from the word go for marriage. I mean, she set her cap at Harry. She wanted to marry him. She made it absolutely clear from the third date that she wanted to marry him and she intended to marry him.
Well, Lady Colin Campbell, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking with us. Congratulations again on the book. Like I said, it's a fascinating read, and I'm sure people are going to just devour it.
Thank you, my love.
Moving on to our royal history moment of the week, and the Queen, of course, has been making history during this entire pandemic. She has been zooming up a storm, and finally they revealed what goes on behind the scenes. So take a look.
It's Tom here.
Yes.
I'm just going to introduce Her Majesty the Queen.
But country broadband isn't. These aren't your average conference calls either.
Good morning. At Windsor.
Good morning. I'm very glad to have been able to join you.
Can you see everybody? You should have 6 people on your screen.
Yes, well, I can see 4 anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, you don't need me. You know what I look like.
I love that Princess Anne had to walk her through all of this. This is so great.
It is so cute, and it's so relatable. We have all been there, right? We've all been on that Zoom meeting. Can you see me? Can you see all? There are 6 of us here. Can you see us? I just have never related more to the Queen than that moment. I thought, oh, Queen, I am there with you. I've been there.
Totally there. Hey, 94 years old and being able to even use Zoom, kudos to that. I think that's
yeah. I hand it to her. I can barely use my cell phone sometimes.
I know.
So. So the fact that she's doing it, I love it.
Yeah, and she's doing it a lot too. Just like William and Kate have stepped up during this time, so is she. I mean, I don't think we've ever seen her this visible and this one-on-one with so many people too, which I think is great.
Yeah, I just love that. As I said earlier, the Queen during COVID has just been fantastic, getting to know her in new, intimate, funny ways. It is a gift to the world during this tough time to have the Queen during COVID.
It really is. All right, before we wrap up, we have to check in on our pint-sized palace, the royal kiddos, and we actually found out in an excerpt from Finding Freedom that Prince Harry is actually a great gift giver. So maybe Prince William should take some notes, because we actually found out what some items he gifted George and Charlotte over the years, right?
Yes, those lucky kids. An electric SUV, a tricycle. I mean, these are toys that, you know, most kids would kill to get from Santa, but Uncle just brings them over. Those are some nice presents. I would be definitely into either one of those.
I totally would be too. Sounds like he's a great uncle, and I'm sure William and Kate have returned the favor and gifted Archie some great things as well.
Oh, I'm sure they have. Despite any rifts between them, the brothers have made clear that they really do love each other and have each other's backs. And, you know, that what's been going on over the last year or so has been tough, but they've said that they'll always be brothers, and I'm sure that extends to taking care of each other's kids and giving good gifts.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you know, he said in that ITV interview, you know, well, brothers will always be brothers, no matter if we don't see each other all the time and what's going on, you know, they'll always be there for each other. So
yes, they will
figure this out. Well, Kristen, thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure. I love talking royals with you.
Oh my gosh, it was such a joy. Thank you so much for having me. I really loved it.
Of course, anytime. For more on the royals, make sure you head on over to usmagazine.com. But in the meantime, keep commenting and keep subscribing to our YouTube channel. We'd love seeing what you guys have to say. Until next week.